everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the show. Hope you guys have saved some room in that gas tank because it's time to go one more round with Rob. Here on today's show, I'm going to be giving you guys my take on a couple of bouts from the Bellator 259 card from this past Friday night that was headlined by Chris Cyborg defending the Bellator Women's Featherweight Championship of the World against Leslie Smith. Before we get to that, guys, though, obviously, as you guys know by now, we have a couple of fights before that to get to, the co-main event being one of them. And then this week in particular, I picked the last fight on Bellator's preliminary card to break down for you guys or to give you my take on. So let's get into that, and we'll move on, and we'll get to the main event, which is what I know you guys always look forward to. So the last fight on their preliminary card was Saad Awad, who has kind of been one of the staples in Bellator MMA, in that organization, for quite a while now. Really great. Actually, a pretty talented mixed martial artist. And he was taking on Nate Andrews. So round one, guys, this was only one round, actually. I'm not even gonna try to make it seem like it went longer than that. It was only one round. Saad Awad got in and out. It was really Saad's fight to control. I mean, he opened up with a great combo that ended with an overhand right that really landed on Andrews. He had some cage control on Andrews for about a minute and a half. Then once they separate, he drops Andrews with a good shot, and then Andrews gets up. He ends up dropping him two more times, and then Dan Miragliato, who is the referee for the bout, after the third time Awad drops Andrews, steps in and says, "No, that's enough. I've seen enough. That's the fight, guys." So it goes down as a knockout win at 3:16 of the first round for Saad Awad. Awad just really controlled the fight. He controlled where, when, and how this fight was going to take place. Andrews tried to compete with him. He really did. But on the feet, Awad was just, he was more skilled than Andrews was. And Andrews, he wasn't a young guy. Like, he had some bouts under his belt as well. I'm trying to remember how close their records were together. Obviously, I think Awad had more fights than Andrews did. But it wasn't like Andrews was coming in on fight 5, 6, 7, and Awad was coming in on, his 25th or however many fights he has. I honestly don't remember how many fights his record said Awad had, but it wasn't like Awad's record was like, I don't know, guys, like 20-5, and Andrews was coming in at like 4-1. Like, it wasn't anything like that. Andrews had some fights under his belt too. Awad was just too skilled for him on the feet. And he knew that, and that's why. And Awad chose to keep the fight in an area where he knew he can control. He had the cage control, like I said, for about a minute and a half, and then he dropped him on the separation of that. And it looked like Awad wanted to maybe mix it up on the ground with him between that clinch control that he had up against the cage, and then after dropping him, it looked like he was like, maybe I can mix it up on the ground with him. But Andrews definitely that's where Andrews would have had the more skilled advantage over Awad, is on the ground. So Awad ultimately used his veteran mind and said, no, that's okay. I'm going to just stand this guy up, And like I said, Andrews tried to compete with Awad on the feet. Awad, that was just his area of the game that he was going to prosper in this fight. Now, the one thing that I was surprised at when initially I was taking my notes for this, I had typed up that it was going to be a TKO win for Awad, and I was just waiting to hear what the time of the stoppage was. And then the announcer announced that it was a knockout instead of a TKO, and I was a little like, I wouldn't have. I don't know that I would have ruled it a KO instead of a TKO. Not because I'm trying to think of how I want to say this, guys. I didn't see it as a knockout. Like, it didn't seem like Andrews had been hurt that bad. It didn't seem like Andrews was out cold. It wasn't like he went stiff. It wasn't like it wasn't like a wad starched him. It's not like a wad slept him. It wasn't anything like that. Like Andrews was on his back. He was looking up at a wad. I don't know that I would have ruled in a knockout or over a TKO for that reason. Now, I will say this: Dan Murgliata, like I said, he was the referee for the bout. Great ref. He must have seen something when he went over and kind of took a look at Andrews. Because Awad landed that last knockdown. He kind of backed off a little bit. Andrews really didn't move, so Dan goes over, takes a look at him, and it wasn't like Dan sat there for 15, 20 seconds and then was like, yeah, no, this is over. Like, he went over, he looked at him and he was like, yeah, no, this is over. Like, it was pretty, he did like a, I don't know, 1 to 2 second assessment and was like, yeah, no, I don't like what I'm seeing. So he must have seen something maybe in the eyes when he looked at Andrews that told him, hey, Andrews isn't all there. But like I said, guys, I don't know that I would have, based off of what I saw from, me sitting on my couch watching it on TV. I was surprised that they said knockout instead of a technical knockout. That's really just kind of nitpicking kind of thing. But I like I said, I was surprised with it. So great job, Saad. I know he had struggled in his last couple of bouts. I think he was. I think he maybe was just on the one fight side of breaking even on wins and losses in his last couple of bouts. So this was really him being like, hey, I deserve to still be in Bellator. I deserve to still be here on a top level promotion. And he went out there and showed it. Andrews, I mean, for how long he was in there, I thought he did as well as he could in an area that Awad had the advantage in. I think if Andrews were to be asked, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think if anybody asked him like, hey, coming around next time, what would you do different? I think he'd probably be like, hey, I'm definitely trying to get him to the ground quicker so I don't get hit with as many shots. So we're going to move on to another staple of Bellator here. Darian Caldwell is taking on the number 6 ranked Leandro Higo at 135 pounds, so bantamweight. Now, Darian Caldwell was or is the former Bellator bantamweight champion, or is a former Bellator bantamweight champion, and I believe he jumped up to featherweight for a couple of fights. So he's up at 145 pounds for a couple of fights, I believe. And this, I am almost confident was one of, if not the first fight that he had back down at 135. So, overall, guys, I enjoyed this bout. I really did. It ended up being a split decision win for Leandro Higo. The judges scored it 29. The first judge scored it 29-28 for Caldwell. The remaining 2 judges scored it 29-28 for Higo. Now, here's the thing, guys. I also had it 29-28 for Higo. Round 1, Caldwell absolutely controlled Higo point blank. Okay, I can't say anything else about round 1. Round 1 was just that. Well, I can say something else about round 1. Now, I'm obviously going to talk about it a little bit more. But as an overview, as a general summary of the round 1 was Caldwell controlling Higo easily. So they both exchange kind of shots here and there through the first minute and a half. Caldwell at almost on the dot of the minute and a half mark though shoots a double leg takedown, gets the takedown. Higo, as Caldwell is getting the takedown, wraps around into almost like a guillotine choke position. but he's not able to lock it in fully. Um, and then from there, Caldwell just starts landing some ground and pound. He ends up cutting Higo open with a good elbow from the top, and you could see as soon as he came down, it was the point of the elbow. So he came here, just straight across, boom, opens Higo up. It was a great technique. Higo goes for like a triangle choke at one point. Caldwell just pretty much defends it pretty easily. He uses it to pass the side control, and then he really just dominates round one for the last 3.5 minutes from on top of Higo. I mean, it was really Caldwell just doing everything that he could, or everything that he wanted, really. I don't think everything that he could, but everything that he wanted from the top position in that first round. It was, Higo just didn't seem to have an answer for it. Now, when we get to round two, same thing. About the first minute and a half, they're kind of exchanging back and forth. Nothing really to write home about, guys. But Higo at one point times a really good calf kick as Caldwell is throwing kind of a body to head body to head kick kind of thing. I forget whether it was body. Knowing Caldwell, he was probably throwing a body kick, but it looked a little higher than a body kick, so it was almost like in the ribs area. It's not really where you want to aim for a body kick, but it is what it is. Higo, anyway, he times that perfectly, lands a good calf kick, pretty much swipes Caldwell's legs out from under him, and then jumps on Caldwell, tries to get back control. Caldwell reverses it. Now, what you guys are probably thinking here, and what I was probably thinking or what I was thinking Friday night, Saturday morning when I was catching up on the fights, I was like, all right, cool. Caldwell's going to go right back to work. Guys, that's not what happened. Caldwell pretty much just laid there for I don't remember what minute mark it was, but it was Caldwell pretty much laid there. It was at least 3 minutes, I would have to say. And Caldwell pretty much just laid there. He threw a couple of shots here and there, but really it was Higo who was throwing shots from the bottom. Caldwell, like I said, throwing a couple of body shots here and there, maybe one or two to the head, but those were few and far between even with those. So, it was really Higo landing the shots from the bottom and being more active than Caldwell was on top. And because of that, when I was watching the fight, I was like, hey, I would give Higo that round. He was way more active. Caldwell just kind of laid there. This is about, can you do damage? Higo did damage. Caldwell did not. It was really interesting just how Caldwell dominated in that position in the first round and just didn't do anything in the second round. Round three, Higo catches a kick that Caldwell was through early. He actually lifts. This was the amazing part about it. He lifts Caldwell up with that leg, walks him over the cage, attempts a takedown. Caldwell defends it, but it was pretty interesting to see, because you don't normally see guys just lift the other guy up by their leg in that manner. And Higo he lifted Caldwell up, took him across the cage, tried to get the takedown. Caldwell, having the wrestling background that he does, defended it. Gets some control of Higo with a body lock from behind. Higo grabs hold of the front headlock. Caldwell drops down. This was the kind of the interesting part here. So as Higo grabs the headlock, Caldwell drops down. Higo kind of circles, starts throwing knees to the body. Caldwell turns his body. Higo, I think he was aiming for the shoulder of Caldwell, but the knee glances off the forehead temple area of Caldwell, so it doesn't hurt him. Not greatly anyway. I mean, I'm sure it had some kind of effect, but it's not like the knee wasn't one that was going to put somebody out. So the referee stops the action there, says, hey, that was an illegal technique. Didn't take a point away, but he took the position away from Higo. So he said, you guys got to start back up on the feet. I think it was the right call. Guys. Higo did. It was a foul. I don't think it was an egregious one. I don't think it was intentional. So I agree with the no point taken away, and I agree with the change of position. And then after that, Higo just kind of controls the rest of the round. It wasn't like, and even from the beginning of the round, it didn't look like, for whatever reason, it didn't look like Caldwell in that last round really was gonna kind of go for broke in this one. It wasn't. I don't know, guys. Caldwell coming out in that last round just didn't seem like he wanted to win. It just seemed like he just didn't want to lose. It seemed like he was trying to not lose instead of trying to win, honestly. So I thought round 3 should go to Higo as well. Obviously, two of the judges saw it the same way. I would assume they saw it the same way. I don't think anybody could have given Higo the first round. That seems like a very big stretch. But obviously one of the judges thought that even though Caldwell didn't do a lot, must have thought that even though Caldwell didn't do a lot on top in the second round, did enough with the takedown and holding position there to be scored that round. That would be my guess. I haven't seen the scorecards, but that would be my guess to how they scored it. Overall, I thought it was a good fight, especially for Higo. Caldwell, like I said, he just didn't do enough for me on top in round 2 for me to be able to give him round 2. And I don't think he did enough in round 3 for me to give him round 3 either. I think if he was as active as he was on the ground as he in rounds 2 and 3 as he was in round 1, I think that he would have, or even if in round 2 he was as active as he was in round 1, I think he would have gotten the fight. I think I know I personally probably would have given him the nod, especially if like I said, in round 2 he was in that top position and then as active as he was in round 1. I think it would have been a no-brainer for me. Like, yeah, two rounds to 1 for Caldwell. So we'll see where they go from here. Like I said, Leandro Higo was ranked number 6 for the Bellator bantamweight rankings coming into this. Caldwell didn't have a ranking, which kind of surprised me. So we'll see if Higo is able to kind of bounce up into the top 5, off of this win of Darian Caldwell and kind of use that name as a springboard, so to speak. All right, main event time. Chris Cyborg, who's the Bellator women's featherweight champion, taking on the number 4 ranked Leslie Smith. Now these two have fought once before, and Cyborg completely steamrolled through her. I think it was like a 20-second bout, which isn't surprising. If you've ever seen Chris Cyborg fight, she is definitely one of the most dominant women in the sport of mixed martial arts. And this fight showed it. Now, this fight showed 2 things, though. It showed 2 things. One, it showed Cyborg is still a dominant player in the game. And number 2, it showed that Leslie Smith greatly improved between their first bout and this bout, and was willing to take, everything Chris Cyborg was throwing at her. Now, Cyborg does get the win, and she gets the win just before the end of the fight. So Cyborg ended up getting a TKO win at 4 minutes 51 seconds of round 5, and still Bellator Women's Featherweight Champion of the world. Guys, here's the thing. Like I said, Leslie Smith Definitely got better between their first bout and this bout. I mean, and it showed. I mean, it obviously had to show. She lasted way longer than the 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever, 2 minutes, whatever it was that their first bout was. She lasted way longer than that, and she actually at times gave a good fight back to Cyborg. But Cyborg she's just built different. Physically, technically, skillfully, however you want to try to columnize it, as you will, or if you will, or categorize it, maybe a better term. She just overall just seemed better than Leslie on that night. Pretty much the whole fight, Cyborg stalked Smith. She stalked Leslie so much, it had to have worn on Leslie's gas tank to just kind of keep evading Cyborg so much. Cyborg dropped her, a couple of times. First round, she dropped her with about a little over 2 minutes left. I think it was about 2:15 left in the first round. She drops her. Cyborg actually at the end of the first round there, or closer to the end of the first round, actually landed a very nice belly to back suplex. That Leslie gets up from a little bit. She gets up and away from Cyborg after that. Fairly shortly after that happened. But I mean, it was a really good belly to back suplex. Not something that I have seen Cyborg do a whole lot. So I was like, oh, okay, like that was really good, So round one, she had dropped Leslie, hits her with that nice belly to back suplex. I mean, it was really kind of like, okay, Cyborg took the first round. Can she keep this up? And she did. She kept it up throughout the whole fight. Now, I'm not saying that Leslie didn't have her moments. Leslie definitely had her moments where Cyborg would come in and maybe she was a little too confident with how she was doing in the fight, which I'm not saying that she shouldn't have been. But it's dangerous in the fight game to be too confident, especially in a bout, to just kind of come in and just think that you can drop somebody with every shot you throw. I'm not saying that Cyborg necessarily thought that consciously when she was doing it or when she was in the fight. But it definitely seemed at times where she would just come in and be like, okay, well, I felt your punches. I don't think you can drop me, but I know I can drop you. And then Leslie actually, put a couple good shots on her. She landed a good couple of shots to her, But overall, Cyborg, if I had to sum it up, Leslie could hit Cyborg, and you're like, okay, Leslie hit Cyborg. But when Cyborg hit Leslie, you were like, oh, Cyborg hit Leslie. Like, yeah, there were and it wasn't every shot where you were like, oh golly, but there were definitely shots where you were like, oh, okay, that paused her. Cyborg would land a shot, and you would just see kind of Leslie just go boop, and then get back into it. Like, she would have that momentary pause where, essentially the brain and the body just had to reset itself and be like, oh crap, all right, here we go. Now round 3 was definitely Leslie's best round. She tried to press forward, and she did for a little bit press forward on Cyborg a little bit more. But anytime she tried to press forward too much, Cyborg kind of reined it back and was like, no, I'm the one that's going to be dominating this fight. I'm the one that's going to be pressing forward. Cyborg drops Leslie again in the third round there. Controls on the ground for the remainder of the short period of time in the round after that. Like I said, it was Leslie's best round where she was kind of moving forward. She was landing some more of her shots than what she had been. But ultimately, it was just, it was another Cyborg performance, guys. Like, it really was. Round 4, Leslie's trying to answer back when Cyborg throws, but again, you know, you could just see that Leslie could land on Cyborg, but then Cyborg would land on Leslie. Like it was two different ways that was happening. Cyborg drops Leslie again. You know, instead of getting on the ground with her this time, though, she chooses to just kind of land some leg kicks, and then she backs off and lets, you know, Leslie get back up. More often than not, the remainder of the round, more often than not, Cyborg would have better success in landing. And then, like I said, round 5, this is where, you know, Cyborg finishes the fight in the last 9 seconds there. You know, she comes out pressing in the 5th round again, like Cyborg did pretty much every other round. But she doesn't press. She's not pressing too much. I think she knows, like, hey, I'm ahead on the scorecards. Like, I'm gonna win this fight. She actually lands a good right hand and then transitions straight into a takedown, and is able to kind of hold Leslie down for a little bit before she can get up and away. And you know, Cyborg dominated the round, but she, you know, she wasn't using her lead to coast to a win. You know, she was dominating the round. She wasn't coasting. And that's what led to her landing that right hand that ultimately dropped Smith for the last time, with about 35 seconds left. And then really, for the next 25 seconds, she just lands ground and pound until, you know, Dan Miragliotta, who was the referee for this bout as well, steps in and stops the bout. And like I said, it was at 4 minutes 51 seconds of the 5th round, so that final round, that Cyborg gets the TKO win. I had given all 4 previous rounds to Cyborg, and if Leslie had lasted that last 9 seconds, I would have given round 5 to Cyborg as well. I don't know that if there was any other way you could score it. So I gave 4 rounds to Cyborg, none to Smith. Obviously, the 5th round we didn't need a scorecard because Cyborg gets the finish. And guys, I don't know if there's any woman in the sport of mixed martial arts that can beat Cyborg at 145 pounds who's not named Amanda Nunes. And based off of the Cyborg that we saw on Friday night, I think a second bout with Amanda Nunes would be very interesting. I don't know that it would go the exact same way that the first bout would or did. I think Amanda could still beat her, but it would definitely be interesting to see because Cyborg didn't just come, you know, barreling out of the gate, guns blazing. She came out and she was very composed, and she stayed composed. And even when there were times where she had dropped Leslie earlier in the fight, she really didn't pounce until that 5th round, when I think she was finally like, okay, I can definitely get her out of here if I push. And if I can't, then I just win the round and I win the fight. So I think it'd be very interesting to see how a second bout with Cyborg and Amanda would shape up. It doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like we will ever get that opportunity, though. I don't think Dana White is interested in. Actually, he has said that he's not interested in having Chris Cyborg fight for the organization anymore. And I don't think there's any way that they let Amanda Nunes go. That girl right now is on fire, and she is pretty much their golden child right now, especially for the women's divisions. So it looks like a second and maybe third bout between those two is just not going to happen. But back onto to this fight here. Like I said, you know, Cyborg and Leslie had that first bout where Leslie didn't even make it through the first round. I don't even think she made it through the first half of the first round. Like I said, I think it was 20-second win for Cyborg in that one. So she did exponentially better in this fight, making it, you know, all the way through the fight except for 9 seconds. And I am okay. And I want to say this too. I am okay with the stoppage by Dan Miragliotta with 9 seconds left in the bout for these reasons. One, Leslie wasn't going to win the fight anyway. She wasn't. Even if she made it through those last 9 seconds, she would have lost 5 rounds to none on the scorecards, most likely. I don't think any judge or anybody watching that fight could be like, yeah, she won a round in there. If you did, I'm sorry, I think you'd be blind and deaf, because you could tell, even in the sound, the difference between Cyborg shots and Leslie's shots when they landed. So she would have lost on the scorecards anyway, and the damage that she would have absorbed would have been highly unnecessary. She would have gotten a heavy amount of punishment coming her way in those final 9 seconds. It would have been absolutely unnecessary, and it wouldn't, her long-term career would have definitely been affected by those final 9 seconds if Cyborg just kind of kept raining down on her. So I'm okay with the stoppage. I don't know if how quickly we're gonna see Leslie in another rematch with Cyborg off of this. I mean, she's definitely gonna have to string together a couple of wins to get back into this kind of picture. So I hope she has really good success with that. Cyborg is obviously still at the top, so it's gonna just be who Bellator decides to line up with her next. So only time will tell on that, guys. But that's the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, like, share, subscribe here on YouTube. Hop over to Instagram and Facebook and give me a like and a follow there. Facebook is One More Round with Rob is the page name. Over on Instagram, the handle is at One More Round Rob. So go ahead, like I said, go ahead, hop over there, give me a like and a follow over there. Posting there, almost daily, guys. Kind of breaking news, I'll post there as well. If I, see something pop up, I'll have some stuff coming out this week about some boxing news, some MMA news that kind of I heard some things about it last week, but I was waiting to see if we can kind of get some gears turning on a full picture, whole story on it kind of thing, which I have some more information on. So throughout this week, we'll have stuff coming out with those kind of things. And as always, guys, like I always say, if you guys have a card coming up that you know of that you haven't heard me talking about on the show, on Instagram, on Facebook, anything like that, shoot me a message. I'll take a look at it, and maybe I'll give you guys, pick out some fights from the card and give you my take on them. Until next time, guys, I hope you stay happy, healthy, and safe. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. And congratulations. You just went one more round with Rob. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you next time.